Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
And I'm Steve.
And today we're going on a search for the Garden of Eden.
Do we want spoilers now to say we found it?
We did
or
find it.
Avoid the spoilers.
Actually, that might be better. We found the Garden of Eden. That might actually be a better hook.
Theme tune.
Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators.
This is a very strange one for me, especially as a devout atheist, to actually admit we've been to the Garden of Eden.
We did, and we also set foot in the Ark as well.
We did. Let's build to that. Let's not give too much away.
So there's a little hook there. So you've actually got to listen to us this week to get to know how we managed to visit the Garden of Eden.
Or skip ahead half an hour.
Yeah.
We can't do that yet, but you can.
So those of you who haven't skipped,
thank you.
Thank you. We visited the town of Bedford.
Glorious Bedford, the Rose of England.
It's a market town with a lot of history, especially the castle that was destroyed by Henry III, and it's now just a mound.
Called Castle Mound, isn't it?
Yep.
But it's a very small mound, which meant the castle must have been tiny.
It was tiny. It didn't take up that land. The mound itself was just the keep, and a river there, of which the river that people walk along is a fake river because it was essentially a canal that was built by the Victorians to have a nice promenade to walk along. It does indeed flood. Universal are going to be there soon, or if you're listening a few years in the future from this recording, Universal is there. Anyway, we went to Bedford and we visited museums, and we started off in the Higgins Museum, which is near Castle Mound. It's around the back of Castle Mound, and it's an art gallery and museum. Historically, it was a brewery with a house next door, owned by the Higgins family.
Yeah, and the main reason Dan knows about this place so well is because it was a brewery.
Yes, Castle Brewery.
Anywhere we go has to be a brewery or brewery related. This was it. But there are lots of ghost stories of this property, aren't there? There's been quite a few sightings.
There are. There's ghost stories of in the actual house itself. It's all now been knocked through. As part of refurbishment, it's all knocked through, where the brewery building and the house are now one big joined building. But within the house side of things, there's apparently a ghost that lives on the staircase and walks up and down the staircase. There's another ghost that's reported to be upstairs in the house. There's also stories of ghosts on the brewery side of things, where there's a couple of brewery workers that walk around, and also a child running around corridors. And one of the most famous stories to come from the Higgins about the paranormal is a couple of volunteers having reports of locking up and then paintings being knocked off the walls or moved slightly ajar in the evenings. So we had to go and visit to see, are the ghosts going to respond to us? Are we going to find the ghosts upon our visit?
Yeah, and it wasn't completely disappointing. We did actually have something unusual we did detect. But it's right, okay, it's a really good museum, isn't it, Dan? It's actually
It's a brilliant museum.
I've never been there. I lived in Bedford I'd lived there for about 12 years, I think, and I never went. I know the kids went through school trips, but I'd never been, and I wish I had been before. It's actually brilliant. It has so much there, so much history. But when we were there, it was a Saturday, I think, just before closing for the winter, and we were the only people there, apart from the staff. There were no visitors. I think we saw a couple towards the end of the day, but absolutely so disappointing that a local museum can be that good and no one go.
It is amazing because we walked around and you've got all of the exhibits of the history of Bedford, right from dinosaurs and prehistory, right up to the modern day, with references to people from Bedford who are famous and what Bedford is famous for, including, things on the outskirts. And then you've got all the arts there as well.
The art gallery was amazing.
And that's where we saw the visitors. Well, the visitors were there for that pop-up event, which when we went was looking at Puffin. Was it Penguin? Penguin.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. It's Penguin. Yeah.
Yeah, what an amazing art show of all the illustrated covers going around all the years. I loved it. It was so good. I was so pleased we went.
Yeah, and on the art side of things, it's also got the largest collection of William Burgess furniture in the world. A lot of the pieces are collected there. So it's a very good museum and brilliant museum.
But what was good, though, is we did take the EMF meter reader as well, didn't we?
We did. And those of you who follow us on our social media page would have actually seen a video. We actually had the meter reading, the EMF reader, went off. It went mad.
Just in one place.
Yeah.
The whole museum has lots of electronic, lots of really good lighting, burglar alarms, motion sensor detectors. We could see, Wi-Fi, it's got everything. But the EMF meter didn't really do anything until we got to this one point in the building. And it was a place where there was no real walls. It was an open area.
Yes.
Within this space. And it was definitely there, and the meter spiked quite high, and we came back and it was still the same place. But was it coming and going? I can't remember, but it was just there.
Well, it was a very strong signal, and if you stepped away from that very specific spot, it went. When we were downstairs and looked up, there was nothing to suggest a router or anything like that, no electronics. And it was just every time I stood in that one spot with that detector, it went off.
Yeah. I mean, this is the funny thing. I mean, we thought, yeah, this is, if it's interference, we're going to carry on walking around with this. We're going to spot this interference everywhere. But we didn't get it. We didn't get it anywhere else by the routers, by the detectors, just in this one area. We thought maybe it is something like that, and it's a nice, bright, modernized museum. But then we went and spoke to the staff, didn't we?
We did. We went, and that's when we found out that there had been a professional ghost hunting team there who had also detected something in that area.
It was also the area where before the museum was modernized a few years ago, there was a staircase going up there, and people would report being tripped on that staircase. Do you remember them saying that?
Yes, tripped on the staircase, and on the third step, they said. It was always on the third step.
And when we asked whereabouts that staircase was, they said it's there, and there was where we detected the unusual EMF meter spikes. It was literally where they said the staircase was. We didn't ask them beforehand. We didn't speak to them about this beforehand. We knew about ghosts on other stairs and other rooms. We didn't know anything about this area here. And we'll put it on Patreon. We'll put the video on the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, the fact is they said there is where the staircase used to be that people were tripped on.
And they also said they used to get very uncomfortable feelings when they were locking up and things going up and down that staircase. And they said also the front desk used to look at that staircase. And if they were sitting there, they sometimes got a feeling of being watched. And when they looked across, there was no one there and the staircase was completely empty and bare. But they sometimes would get a feeling that something or someone was there watching them from that staircase.
So very unusual.
Very unusual.
But it almost confirmed it, didn't it? I mean, it confirmed something was in that area.
Yes.
We don't know what it was. Unfortunately, we didn't hang around too long to do any in-depth investigation because we had other museums to visit. But that left us on quite a high that something actually, something we spotted was actually confirmed by staff afterwards.
Yes. And as you said, we had to have, the only conversation we had with them prior was just the sentence of, hi, we do a podcast. Is it okay if we do some video recording while we're here? And they said, yes, as long as you don't get videos of other customers. That was the only conversation we had. We hadn't even told them what our podcast was about. We hadn't given them any clues. That's all we had said, and that was it. And then the next conversation was, so how did you find it? And we spoke to them about meter reading. We then told them what the podcast was about. That's when they then told us, oh, well, that staircase, there used to be a ghost on that staircase. Used to trip people over.
So much so they got rid of the staircase. They actually moved the staircase, to stop it. But we do recommend, if you're in Bedford at all for Universal Studios, when you're going to visit this, to stop off at the museum in town.
Yeah, the Higgins Museum.
The Higgins Museum, really good.
Yeah,
really good.
Open all year round.
Yeah. But we found out one of the unusual things about Bedford is it has a lot of religious history, and I would say very religious, Christian, culty kind of things.
Yeah.
Not just a modern thing. been going over the years, isn't it? I mean,
it has been going on for years. So we can go right back to the 17th century, at the time of the English Civil War, and the infamous John Bunyan, famous for writing a book called The Pilgrim's Progress, which is one of the most translated books in human history.
Which I found fascinating. Do you know what? I said to you there, and I say it to you again, I keep thinking of Paul Bunyan. Different person altogether.
Yes.
But when they said Bunyan, there's Bunyan's Mead in Elstow in Bedford, which my mum used to live opposite Moot Hall, which is where apparently he was imprisoned or something, or it's got something to do with.
He was from Elstow.
He was Elstow, so he lived in Moot Hall. That's where it was, and that was literally the house that was opposite from this Tudor house we stayed in. We used to live in, and I was convinced it was John Bunyan. Sorry, Paul Bunyan, not John Bunyan, and it just threw me completely. I thought that's a very small house for a giant.
Yeah, well, he came from Elstow, which does have Moot Hall in Elstow. That's pretty much the only thing in Elstow there, really. And he then moved into Bedford, a couple of doors down for a pub, actually, which back when he lived there, he would have been a coaching inn. And he ended up, because it was the English Civil War and at the time of Charles I and a lot of religion, John Bunyan had started preaching his own version of Christianity, and it didn't go down too well with the royalists.
It wouldn't do really, would it? I mean, it's never going to end well, is it?
Yeah. And then, of course, the parliamentarians take over, who had all of their rules of, this is how we are going to live our lives based on Puritan laws. And the Puritan laws didn't quite go well with this whole religion and type of Christianity that John Bunyan was preaching. So he was locked in prison, locked in Bedford prison.
Did he have... I can't remember. Did he have visions from God, messages from God that helped him write everything?
Yes,
while he was hearing things.
Yeah, that was while he was in prison. God spoke to him while he was in prison, and he wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, which is a story all about a journey that a pilgrim takes into heaven. However, he mentions lots of buildings like the House Beautiful, which is based on a real house, which is now ruins, which is, I believe, Elstow Abbey, which is known for being haunted itself.
So what he did was he created biblical stories based around Bedfordshire.
Yes.
Because I guess that's all he knew, wasn't it? I guess that's all he knew. He hadn't really travelled. So all his stories are based around Bedford. Which, are there Bunyan churches everywhere or just in Bedford?
I think it's just in Bedford. I think the Bunyan Church is purely a Bedford thing, which they still do preach his version of Christianity. It's a free church, which means they're free to preach his version of events.
But the Bunyan Church is just across the road from the Bunyan Museum, and it's quite busy. We were there, and there were people inside doing stuff. We didn't go in, but it's only the one church. I don't know if there are any more, but the fact he actually has a church and followers still hundreds of years later who's still following his story, which is all based around Bedford. The gateway to heaven is in Bedford.
Yeah,
it's madness. Who would think anything like that?
Yeah.
I'm just reading here that there is no network of John Bunyan related churches. That is the only one on the planet, and it has a following enough that hundreds of years later people are still paying for it, who are still keeping the place running. It's mad. Sorry, it's just mad that somebody has, well, let's say one of the most translated religious books in the world. He has a church that people still follow him, but there's only one, and it's in Bedford. Yeah, in the back streets behind the river.
Yep.
It's crazy. That's crazy. How can a religion carry on? Because it's a religion, obviously, but how can a religion carry on with just a handful of people? But that it doesn't get any bigger or any smaller over centuries. Yeah. And I mean, this isn't like a remote island. This is Bedfordshire. This is where Universal Studio Tour is. Where it's Universal Studios. Yeah, it's lasted hundreds of years. Will it carry on? It's really quirky.
It is.
We should actually have gone in and gone into a session.
Yeah, because the day that we visited it was a Saturday, and we didn't want to go and interrupt the choir that was practicing in there. So in the actual church bit. But the museum, it was the bit that always gets me in the museum is when you walk in and you've got that wax figure of John Bunyan looking at you with the button.
The two left shoes.
Yeah, well, the shoes that are they're the same.
Yeah, they're the same.
Instead of making a left shoe and a right shoe, they're both the same. So it doesn't actually matter whether you put it on your left foot or your right foot. And then there's the button that you can press to get him to speak to you.
Yeah. Not like God. He actually, just hear this voice in your head, just like he did.
Yeah, but yeah, no, and it tells you the history of John Bunyan himself, and then about England and what was happening in England at the time to give you a bit of context, and then a bit about the book.
But again, this is something. Again, it's another one of the many religions and beliefs which have started because somebody heard voices in their heads.
Yes,
there's a lot there, and then that takes us on to our next one, I guess.
It does, because the next one is then 100 years later. We actually leave Bedford very briefly to go to Devon to talk about Joanna Southcott,
who was born 1750.
Yeah, 1750.
And she heard voices in her head, didn't she?
She believed that she was a prophet of God. She claimed that she was pregnant with the nude Messiah, the Shiloh of Genesis, and she had planned everything to happen for the arrival of the new Messiah, so essentially like a new Jesus, and she ended up
Jesus 2.
Jesus Part 2. The baby never came, and she died.
Because, she obviously had a phantom pregnancy. Then there was no baby, and wasn't it that they thought because the baby didn't come, the baby went straight back to heaven again, and it was just as waiting for the next person,
something like that. Yeah,
but she formed basically the religious organization. There is a religious organization around Joanna Southcott, and that's still going. Apparently apparently they said they still get followers of Joanna Southcott turn up to where we went to.
And the most famous thing that Joanna Southcott had was the Joanna Southcott box, which the Joanna Southcott box has full instructions of when to open it, and inside the box is supposedly stories and instructions to do with the Day of Judgment. Nobody knows what is inside the box, nobody knows what is written, but inside the box is something to do with the end of days, the Day of Judgment, and she has written something inside there and sealed it in this box. And the box has very, very specific instructions for how it should be opened. It's got to have 24 bishops of the Church of England. They need to spend a fixed period of time studying the prophecies. And then, after following everything to the letter and what she's written, they can then open this box. And then she's sort of like, the followers are still there of Joanna Southcott. But then where it links to Bedford is about 100 years later, Mabel Baltrop then founded the Panacea Society in Bedford.
Yes. And the building's still there. It's now a museum, and there's a reason why it's only a museum now, run by a charity.
Yes.
And that is because they're all dead. All the followers have died.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the thing. We were saving it to the end, but yeah, it's a religious following, a religious organisation, which
is based upon.
Now, tell me, because I can't remember.
Well, it's based around the teachings of Joanna Southcott, because Mabel Baltrop had discovered the teachings of Joanna Southcott, and she herself believed that she was the daughter of God. So Mabel Baltrop believed that Shiloh, which was mentioned in Southcott's prophecies that Southcott was supposedly pregnant with, Mabel Baltrop believed that was her, that she was Shiloh, she was the daughter of God, she was the new prophet to come through, and for some reason changed her name to Octavia. Nobody seems to know why she called herself Octavia.
No, I do remember this song. I do remember the thing I found very interesting about this is that she wasn't in a good state of mind.
No, she wasn't.
Her husband died in the First World War or something, or he died of something. She ended up being institutionalized in an asylum. She was then released, and then she actually admitted herself twice more for various. She was a schizophrenic. She was paranoid schizophrenic. She had various other mental health issues. She had spent a lot of her life in mental asylums. She even admitted herself because of her state of mind. She knew she wasn't in the right place, but then one day she decided she was going to be the mother of God,
Yes.
and be there to save the world at the end of the world, or whatever it was. But she had a whole lifetime of serious mental health issues.
She did.
But she got followers, and wealthy followers, and rich followers, and fanatical followers.
And that was the thing, because it started in her house on Albany Road, which later would be referred to as the Ark. So that's how we step foot inside the Ark, because
Yes, we've been to the Ark.
12 Albany Road was later referred to as the Ark. That was her house. That was the house that she lived in, her family lived in. And then they acquired, many years later, the building that is the main frontage of the museum.
And they did this through having lots of wealthy members. They were very careful to make sure they picked wealthy followers rather than just ordinary followers.
Yes.
Which is, again, one of the reasons why I think there are no followers now.
Yeah.
Because she only had a small group of wealthy investors.
Yes, and it was the investors, and the garden of the property is, well, she believed was the Garden of Eden.
No, it's not she believed. It actually is the Garden of Eden. It says so. There's signs there. Yeah. The actual Garden of Eden is in Bedford, behind this house. We've been there. We've got footage. We've got videos. It's absolutely... There was no apple tree, though. Yeah, but they actually, honestly, isn't it, Dan? They believed that this was the Garden of Eden, not just a representation of it, not just we're just going to put it there for us. This is the actual Garden of Eden.
Yeah, the actual Garden of Eden.
It's nicely landscaped. It's definitely something Alan Titchmarsh could have done.
It is.
I don't know. I don't think it's anything really special. It's a nice garden.
No. And the thing is, one of the beliefs that they had was, because it was the Garden of Eden, Satan could not come and influence the Panaceans and could not influence the followers, because the followers had to live there, didn't they? And they had very little to do with the people of Bedford. And as you said, the whole thing with the wealthy followers is you were expected as a follower of the society to give up all of your possessions, all of your money, to give to the society, because you don't need it, because you will be looked after, and it's all being saved up for when the second coming of Jesus happens, because Jesus needs the money for when he comes back to earth.
It sort of developed into a sort of millennial end of the world cult.
It did, because they did then find Joanna Southcott's box, and they did bring it to the Panacea Society. And Joanna Southcott's box, we saw a replica of it, and we have been informed by the people running the charity that the box still exists and is kept in a top secret location. The keys to open the box are kept in a separate location, also secretive. The person that has the key doesn't know where the box is. The person that has the box doesn't know where the key is, and it's all protected by the charity. And the reason why the charity today won't open it is because there are still people who follow Joanna Southcott today and would be very upset if it were to be opened without her stories being followed.
So the interesting thing about this box, isn't it, that it was actually, I thought maybe it was an end of the world thing, so they could, guarantee their access to heaven, that, the usual rapture kind of stuff. But it was about saving Britain and mitigating judgment to Britain come the end of days, come the apocalypse. World War II happened, and over 100,000 people petitioned to get this box opened. You can see there was actually billboards in Leicester Square, not Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus. They had pictures of that, didn't they? The billboards in Piccadilly Circus, which was basically saying, get the Southcott box opened.
Yes, and there were over 100,000 signatures on a petition to open the box.
But the society only had a few dozen members, but people still believed this, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I was just reading that the psychic researcher Harry Price in 1927 claimed he got hold of the box and he actually opened the box. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Harry Price, who was a famous psychic researcher back in the 30s, he says he opened up the box in the presence of a bishop, one bishop, not 24, and in it they found a few oddments, they call it, unimportant papers, including a lottery ticket and a horse pistol. But since then, historians and Southcottian followers have refuted it, said it wasn't the real box. Southcott, she was just a housemaid. She didn't have the resources to get stuff. She didn't have the money. She was just a housemaid. living in her house in Exeter,
Yes.
who just had mental health issues.
But then Mabel Baltrop, the founder of the Panacea Society, she did end up getting her own printing press and everything, didn't she?
Oh, yeah,
To
that was
print
awesome.
leaflets, and the actual printing press is still there. So you can actually see it in the museum, and that was to print all of these documentation for the society, to advertise the society. So Mabel, or Octavia, was really big into it, and they purchased the other house to actually facilitate the 24 bishops opening the box. But when we went around that house, there weren't many bedrooms, and there was only about 2 or 3 bathrooms, but the main room where you could open the box up was big enough for 24 people.
The house is amazing. Again, if you're in Bedford, if you visit the Higgins and visit the Bunyan, go to the Panacea Museum. It's amazing. The house has barely been touched. I mean, there's burglar alarms and motion detectors in there now, but it's pretty much as it was 150 years ago.
Yes.
It hasn't changed. It's just amazing. It's a lovely house. Again, didn't feel like it was haunted or anything. Nobody had ever experienced anything unusual there, but it's just a house as it was. But it's 2 houses. So you got the main house, which was the one that has a basement which occasionally floods because of the river.
Yes.
It has multiple bedrooms on lots of floors. It was very big. It was a very nice property. And then in the garden, you've got Octavius's house. That's there. To tell you something, the staff were lovely. They were lovely. They were happy to talk and answer questions about everything. There was a radio room.
Yes, for the followers that lived there, they had the entertainment room, which they called, as you said, the radio room, which had a radio in and a dartboard.
Yeah, it was lovely. Just needed a bar, and it would have been even better. There was the church. There was a little chapel, which was very good as well. Very cool. All in this bit of ground, in this nice big garden area, and it's like all around the Garden of Eden.
And I did notice that the
place.
chapel itself, all of the congregation would be looking towards the Garden of Eden. I did notice that the altar was placed at end of the room. But of course, we haven't spoken about the healing properties of the Panacea Society.
Oh yeah, they worked really well on everybody.
Where Octavia blessed pieces of linen, and the linen would then be cut up, and they could heal all sorts of diseases, including cancer. So what you would do, you would write to the headquarters in Bedford. Octavia would bless a piece of linen, and she would then send you a piece of linen with instructions.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, a lot of people would bless a piece of linen most nights and just leave it at the foot of the bed. I'm sure there's a much thing. Got one of the bishops to bless a piece of linen every night.
But you would put so what you would do,
with this crusty bit of linen. Don't heal anything, dear. Just get that.
But because Octavia believed that she was the second coming of Jesus, or she was Shiloh, she was the new Messiah, she would bless the piece of linen, and the instructions were you'd take the linen, place it in a jug of water, you'd say a very specific prayer, and you would drink this water, called water A, 4 times a day. Water A would then be diluted with additional water, producing water B. Water B would be applied to the body as bath water or through sponges. And this actually went...
drink it. That wasn't going to be good. I don't want any drinking my blessed linen.
As you said, the last member of the society died in 2012.
Actually, you didn't finish talking about wiping yourself down with the dirty linen.
Yes, but it links to the fact that the last follower died in 2012, because between 1924 and 2012, around 130,000 applicants who wrote to the society got a piece of linen, and they were asked to write back and report on their results of the cure. And the correspondence came from all over the world, and the museum still has all of the correspondence. It was studied, and there is a book that you can purchase by Alistair Lockhart, where he's actually written about all of these people. But these applicants came worldwide, wrote to get a piece of linen to cure whatever disease.
If anybody wants my linen to cure disease, just write into Boo-Foons and we'll send you some sold linen.
Yeah, Steve's crusty linen.
I understand that the last the last members of the Panacea Society sat out on midnight, December 31st, 1999, waiting for the end of the world. And when it didn't happen, they said, "Oops, we must have got the date wrong," like every other doomsday cult.
But when they actually thought that it was at that point, when they went, "Oh, it's the wrong date," they then actually recalculated that it was actually 2004, and still nothing happened. Yeah. So they actually ended up going, they got the date wrong, it must be 2004, and then that still didn't happen.
Oh, do you remember the Mayan calendar 2012 nonsense?
Yes.
Nobody considered the fact they only built their calendars in like periods of time when they hadn't got round to put the next lot in. Nobody had done the administration for the update to the calendar before they became extinct. But yeah, fascinating place. So if you want to see the Ark and the Garden of Eden, and you want to see how a delusioned person can have a charity with at least £3 million in the bank all these years later, visit the Panacea Society.
Yes, well, that was the thing, wasn't it? Because when Ruth Klein, who's the very final member of the society, died in 2012, the society ceased to exist as a religious community, and it then became a charity to preserve the memory of the society and the buildings. And that charity, when they took over as the charity trust, they, as you said, it was a portfolio worth £20 million in addition to £3 million in its own assets. And some of those assets that they have are houses and properties around the Bedford area that are rented out to people. So the charity is still making money through renting out properties that belongs to the charity now, because it was always part of the society. And that's one of the ways that society generated money. And you can visit for free and donate to them, but it's going purely because there's so much money in the bank from all of the followers who went, here's the money ready for when Jesus comes back, because Jesus needs a big bank account.
Jesus. Well, Jesus had lovely clothes sorted out, didn't he? Ready for him.
That was for when he was born as Shiloh, as a second coming. Very lovely.
Called Shiloh about a dog. I don't know. Maybe something named a dog after. Apparently, Charles Dickens wrote about Joanna Southcott as well. She's actually mentioned in the start of A Tale of Two Cities.
Well, you know, this podcast, we keep mentioning Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're obsessed with Charles Dickens.
Everybody seems to be obsessed with it, especially ghost and paranormal wise. Everywhere seems to be Charles bloody Dickens.
Well, I've just Googled Shiloh, and Shiloh refers to several things: a biblical city, a baby name, the surname of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's daughter, and a surname or brand name for various people, place, or product. But with regards to biblical city, it's an Israelite city located to the north of Jerusalem. So Shiloh was an ancient Israelite city to the north of Jerusalem. It's a baby name meaning tranquil or his gift.
Okay, that sounds very nice. Yeah, so
I'd still love to know why Mabel decided I'm Octavia, because of course that's what the second coming as a female would be called, Octavia, because Jesus and Octavia clearly are the same name, you know.
Well, when you suffer from mental health issues, you can come up with any justification for anything.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got people enforcing that.
There's a news story here that reports in 2018, the charity does actually donate money to the local society, the local community of Bedford.
Okay.
And in 2018, the charity themselves had an income from all the properties, everything, of £737,000. And out of that £737,000, £700,000 of it actually went to the local community.
How do you actually get to see where this money's gone, where it goes to?
From when I was a trustee of a charity, I'm well aware that you have to submit all of your accounts to the Charity Commission, and you can get all the documentation from the Charities Commission. A bit like, you know, how businesses have to report it and you can get all things from Companies House.
Yeah.
You can actually get it from the Charities Commission.
Right, okay. Just need to clarify this with Panacea. Was Bedford the New Jerusalem as far as they were concerned?
I don't think so, because...
was it just the Garden of Eden? It wasn't anything more than that.
It was the fact that it was the Garden of Eden, and Mabel, or Octavia, believed that she was Shiloh, so therefore the next Messiah, so the next Jesus, so to speak. Or, you know, I suppose I suppose if you follow along the Abrahamic religion timeline, she would have been the next Messiah after Muhammad, I suppose, because with regards to the prophets, you had Jesus, and then if you then follow Islam, you've then got Muhammad as the next prophet of God. So Shiloh would have then been the next one in line. But for them, they were very Christian, so therefore wouldn't have recognized Muhammad. So I suppose it's not so much a sacred place, it's more that it is the Garden of Eden, and the reason they chose the Garden of Eden was because they were protected from Satan, which Satan was in the Garden of Eden because he was the person who was a snake who tricked Adam and Eve into eating the apples.
But there's no apple trees in that Garden of Eden. We've seen it. There was no apple trees there.
No.
So they just took the apple tree down just to stop anything like that happening.
Yeah.
That's how you stop the devil actually getting involved, is you just cut your apple trees down.
Well, there are people that think that the apple tree from the Garden of Eden is actually a story that comes from Norse mythology.
What? You mean it was taken from another religious belief? Christianity and no.
Oh, do you not know this?
I'm being sarcastic. I know that all of Christianity was taken from other existing religions. And see how it's like, really? They can't come up with anything original. There's nothing original in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, in Norse mythology, Eden was the goddess of youth, who was the garden of magical golden apples, which those golden apples were eaten by the Norse gods that would give them their eternal youth and their vitality, preventing them from aging. And there's a story where Loki tricked her away to the giant Thiazi, I'm not sure how to pronunciate it, causing all the gods to weaken, which forced Loki to rescue her by transforming her into a nut, flying her back into Asgard, which then restored all the gods' youth. And the apples were crucial for the gods' continued existence, symbolizing renewal and fertility. However, the Norse word epli could mean any fruit or nut, not just an apple. But the fact is that goddess was called Eden, and in Christianity, Judaism and Christianity, the Garden of Eden had an apple tree of which they were told don't eat the apples, and then God kicked them out for eating the apples. But if you follow all of the things, Adam and Eve, after being kicked out of the Garden of Eden, lived for a very long time in the Bible.
They did. Everybody lived for a very long time in the Bible if you were a main character, apart from Jesus.
So people do think that they have links.
You know
so there we go. And that's a very good point to say. If you're not following our social media, do search for us on social media. And if you don't already, do give us a look. Do give our Patreon some love as well. We do have loads of bonus content on our Patreon.
Can I also say as well, on our website, buffoons.co.uk, you can actually link through to Podchaser and give us a review.
Yes. And the website, the stuff that you put on the website, the things that you write for the website is amazing. And each episode, how you end up with bonus information and links through to more information so people can actually. So if you've listened to anything in this episode that you want to learn more about, do go to our website, because Steve has actually gone out and done extra research for you to put on the website for you to actually find more information.
And I'm going to try to put going to keep the website updated with trying to get as much of the references and material on there. I think it's a really good resource, and at least we know it's there for future, that we can say, yes, you can see a picture of the white ladies, or we can see our video of the Garden of Eden. There's a lot more we can do.
There are.
But yes. So
yes, thank you for
follow us.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us this week as on our little roundup of our trip of Bedford and our visitation to the Garden of Eden.
Theme tune.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.